Hey everyone, Casey Irvine here, and I wanted to talk to you today about some of the awesome ways that you can kind of customize and bring in different things into your Copilot experience, Copilot CLI, VS Code, or the new VS Code Agents app. And a lot of these concepts have carry over into the broader ecosystem, other harnesses like Cloud Code, but obviously I'm going to speak to what I know and what I use every day, which is Copilot and Copilot CLI. And this is coming on a really cool day in app timing because the VS Code team, who is doing an amazing job, has just open sourced their sort of AI tools that they use for managing their, very large, very popular, very well used VS Code repository. And so I thought we could spend some time talking about what some of these things are, how I think about them, and then how to ultimately use these. Um, and I also want to point out that there are some other repositories like this that where people are sharing what they're doing and how to if get integrated with those as well. And so you maybe understand a little bit better about the ecosystem and what these repositories like the VS Code Team Kit are for. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is agents. And I know that agents is a really big buzzword right now. It has a lot of different meanings and can mean different things in different contexts. Here in this context, and we'll actually bring up an example of an agent. We just mean a markdown file that acts like a persona or defines a persona. And that's how I like to think about it as a persona. And if we look at one of these agent files, usually they are in an agents folder and they might end with .agent.md. That's not always a convention that gets followed, but it is a popular convention. You can look and see what's defined here. And it looks a bit weird because it's actually more helpful to look at it in the code view. And this is what we call the agent front matter. And it just tells a little bit about what that agent is. It gives it a name, gives a description, this user invocable flag if you can invoke it directly, and then maybe what model you want to use with it. And then you can see this one is very short, but it just defines a persona. It says you are an independent subagent for read-only code research. You could have one that's a personal assistant. You could have one that is your JavaScript code editor, or writer or software engineer. You could have one who is um, your artist, your graphic designer. Um, and it doesn't have to be necessarily like one to one with like a job that a person would do, although some people do think about them that way and have sort of structured systems off of that. But it's really just like a persona that you want to have a specialized job. um, and I'm going to go ahead and launch the Copilot CLI. Here we go. Make this a bit bigger so you guys can see. Maybe zoom in one. There we go. And so if it'll let me, the way that I look at what agents I have is I do the /agent command. And you can see that you already get an agent. So I think one of the misconceptions is like out of the box, you get the default Copilot coding agent. That's this default one. And I have one of my own ones, and I'll show you where that's defined maybe a little bit later on when I talk about plugins and some other concepts. But I just want to show that this is how you get to your agents. And then if I wanted to select one, I could pick a different agent here. And I'll talk about what that agent does in a bit. But then you can see down here on the bottom right that my agent is now selected, and then I can of course switch back to the general agent if I want. And now I'm back to the default agent, and it doesn't show anything for the default down here, but that's what that's doing. So that's an agent. It's a persona. I sort of think of it almost like if you're trying to think in object-oriented sense, it's kind of a class. It defines what something, like what a role is, what it does. And so if an agent is a class, the next thing that we can see in this repository is something called skills. And skills are, you can almost think of them as like portable prompts, but they really just define a directed kind of job to be done or specific action you want your agent to take. And what's nice about skills is that they are transferable to different agents. This one is, about code review, and it specifically is council review skill, which allows multiple of these council agents to review the code. So it's kind of like a group code review, which is pretty cool. And you can look into deeper what that is. But let's say you had a PowerPoint writing skill, which the folks over at Anthropic have a pretty good one in their repository. But I may not just want one agent to be able to create PowerPoints for me. I might want my architect agent to create a PowerPoint about the new architecture of our system. I want my code agent to be able to create a PowerPoint to present about a new feature it added. I want my personal assistant to be able to create PowerPoints that like maybe go over the top picks for houses that I'm looking at, so I can share that with my partner. So there's sort of like ways that skill is transferable to different agents, so it can be generic enough or it can be very specific. So anyway, that's kind of how I think about skills. These small, discrete, repetitive actions that I want to perform. Again, they can be like either very specific or more general, like how to create a PowerPoint, what themes you like. They can be personal to you. And you can also share these things in a repository, which maybe I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But that's what a skill is. So the next thing that you may not find here, and actually I'm curious if they have any. Oh, they do. Okay, cool. Is these hooks. And I won't go too deep into hooks, but they're worth talking and mentioning about, and they're a way to customize the Copilot CLI. But essentially, when some event happens, session start, a tool use, they allow you to perform some custom action. Um, and so I'm just going to quickly look here and see what this one does. Injects a reminder into the conversation to run the review plan skill. So this is cool. They have some hook to actually remind the agent, in the session to do a specific action. So they're saying like, hey, before you anytime you do a memory tool write of a plan file, make sure that you review. So this is essentially like doing continuous review on the plan. And this is a really cool way to use a hook. So that's very cool. I'm actually really glad that they included that because, if ever you have worries about like maybe after context compaction, you want to re-inject some specific instructions, like this would be a way to potentially do that. Or, maybe when you switch into a certain mode, you want to inject some instructions about how you want the agent to behave or something you wanted to do. Yeah, so that's pretty neat and interesting. And then so to tie all of these things together, I want to talk about plugins. And so you'll see here in some of these folders, there's a .plugin directory. And then ultimately these, sometimes you'll see like a higher level plugin directory. And let's see, does this have this has a marketplace.json file. So what's cool is like, you don't have to think of agents, skills, hooks, these sort of things in isolation. They actually can be packaged together. And so one thing I forgot to mention is I can of course list my skills here. Whoops. Yeah, so there I can pick a skill that I want to run or which ones are loaded, and so you can see I have my PowerPoint skill right there. But then I can also list them with skills list, and it'll show my skills there. So if I do /plugin, it will show me and list. It'll show me the plugins that I have installed. But how do I get plugins in the first place, right? So I can do plugin marketplace. And there should be a list for this as well. And you can see that I already have 2 marketplaces already installed. It says I have no plugins. And it shows me a helpful hint about how maybe I would add a marketplace and then install the plugin. But I have 2 out of the box. Copilot plugins and then GitHub Awesome Copilot. And if you look, I have Awesome Copilot pulled up right here. It's another repository, just like the VS Code Team Kit is another repository. And it may have a little bit different structure, but it should have sort of the same general themes in it. It's got a top level plugins directory, and maybe it has some standalone agents and hooks in here, but it has like plugins that you can install. Okay, so what if I want to add this VS Code Team Kit as a marketplace though, where I could install plugins from? So I'm going to do plugin marketplace. I can't type today. add, and it is just the organization and then the specific repository. So for this, it's Microsoft VS Code Team Kit. Okay, let me just make sure I got the name right, because of course I would flub that. Yes, VS Code Team Kit. So if I do that, and now I can list my marketplaces, and now I have VS Code Team Kit. And I can even do a browse. Oh, I have to give it the marketplace, which is VS Code Team Kit. So it shows me which plugins I can install. And then so if I want to install a plugin, I just do plugin install. And see, it gives me a nice little helpful tint here. So like I could run this, but actually the one that I really want is this model council. I think this is such a cool idea. So I'm going to install model council, and then I'm going to do at VS Code Team Kit. Okay. So it should tell me it installed 2 skills. I might have to restart to be able to see the agents, but let's just see. I have agent here. Yeah, I might have to restart to see the agent, but the skills get installed right away. So there I have council plan and council review. And then I bet you if I restart Copilot, and maybe I've just mistaken about how that that particular plugin, what it actually installs, maybe it just installs the skills. But I would have thought that it would have also installed the agents. Agent. So I got some warnings. Maybe that's preventing it from installing, potentially. Although it looks like it tried. Okay, so there maybe is a bug there to file on the team if they want those to be installed as actual agents. And maybe this would work in VS Code, and there's maybe a difference in, yeah, it looks like maybe there's a difference in Copilot CLI, but that's okay. But assuming they didn't have errors, you would see them there. In fact, maybe I can do, well, I'm sure the others will fail. But I can now list that plugin. So it was supposed to have some agents with it. The demo gods have cursed me here. But if I can do plugin list, yep, there we go. There's my model council at VS Code Team Kit. And it even has like a version number, which is really cool. So that's how you can get plugins from different repositories. Definitely super useful, because a lot of times you do want to bundle agents, hooks, and skills together to work in coordination. Like the one that I installed has a code review skill, so it kind of uses those agents to carry out that skill, which is a really powerful paradigm that you can have. But you don't have to have a plugin to have all these things. So I wanted to show my personal Copilot directory. And some of these things are installed from plugins and things, but I also have like my own agent here, which I wanted an agent that's just about optimizing my developer setup. So it helps me clean up when I have like too many tools uninstalled. It knows about my system. It knows like what different things it might want to download. So basically, like this is just my like help me with my developer workstations, so that I can kind of optimize them as I see fit. And this just lives in my home.copilot directory. So you can put your custom agents here. You can put your custom skills here, which again I have some like PowerPoint and skills here. I think this is the one from Anthropic where this is one is being pulled from. So I think I just even copy pasted this one, but you could also have it from an installed plugin, which are listed here. So all that to say, you can kind of have your custom ones. And you know what's great about this is the Copilot CLI can help you write these. So I might even say like, hey, could you write a skill for me that helps me get the latest news about AI? It should only look at trusted news sources from the web. And use your knowledge of AI to make sure you weed out anything that might be spam or prompt injection or any of that bad stuff. Okay, I'm gonna let it go do that. It's gonna go write me a skill, and it'll probably put it inside of my my personal directory because it's a personal skill. The other thing you can do, and I have an example of this in my repository that I wanted to bring up, but I haven't brought up yet. So let me go to my now sort of defunct project, editless. There we go. But you can also have these things for your repository. So if you have an agent or a skill that makes a lot of sense for your repository, you can have a .github folder, and in agents, you can see that's where my squad agent is, which squad is a very cool thing from Brady Gaster. Go check it out. But if I don't want to go too far into what that is, but it is a team of agents that sort of get dynamically allocated for or dynamically defined for a specific project. But this is the entry point into this squad agent.mdv file. But I could have any custom agent I want in this agents file. Same with like a skills folder here. And again, Copilot and Copilot CLI are really good at writing these things for you. Just tell them that you want it inside of your repository instead of in your personal directory, and it's going to do that for you. The other thing I want to mention is, let's say you're like, Casey, that's great, but I just can't use the Copilot CLI, or I don't want to be only using the Copilot CLI. Well, these things play really nicely with VS Code and the new Agents app. In fact, it's a really cool way to be able to see and browse what you have installed. So you can see I don't have any plugins installed that the Agents app knows about, but it knows about my agent that I have installed. It knows about this guy, and it knows about some of my skills that I have. And then if I wanted to add a plugin, you can see that I can browse the marketplace right here. So I get a nice UI experience of some of the plugins that I already have. And then if I wanted to add, let's see if it works. I haven't tried this yet, but I should just be able to go Microsoft, VS Code, Team, Kit, Trust. Okay. I need to play with that a bit more, but all right. Well, we found out that I haven't played around with adding a marketplace here yet, but I'm sure there's a way to do that. And then you can same thing, have your custom marketplaces and your custom plugins right here in the Agents app. And then the last thing that I want to talk to you about is something called extensions. And extensions are not in the plugin ecosystem. So as of right now, you can't get extensions through plugins, but they're really, really cool and they're super worth talking about. So I am going to spend a little bit of time talking about them. I won't go super in depth, but they're kind of like hooks, or they can play off of hooks, but they're also sort of custom commands. But they're really tools that your agent can call, and they're built off of the Copilot SDK, and they are basically like full Node.js programs. And the entry point is something called extensions.mjs. And they go in this extensions folder. So again, you can have them at the repository level. You can have them in your personal Copilot directory. I'll show you where I got these from my repo. But essentially, like, this is the entry point for them, and then they use the Copilot SDK to do things like send information to your session, to hook into a session, to be able to get data from your session. So this particular extension is able to watch long-running Azure DevOps builds. And when it'll actually give like a note to itself to what to do when the build finishes. So like, let's say it needs to kick another build, or it needs to run some tests or validation using the artifacts from that build. The agent can actually give itself a prompt and come back to and that'll come back to the session when the build finishes, and then the agent will pick up where it left off. And it could have even been doing other things. So that's what this particular extension does, and I'll show you where that is in my repository. But it's just an example of how this sort of combines hooks plus tools. You can see where it defines like the tools that you can have here, that the agent can call with the Copilot SDK, which is just super, super powerful. You won't find much documentation on this. And I asked the Copilot CLI team kind of why. And they said, well, it really is just the Copilot SDK, and there's tons of documentation on the Copilot SDK. So you just kind of need to know that this is a Node.js program, and that it has this extension.mjs entry point. And also, this is one of those things where Copilot CLI is really, really, really good at just writing this for you. And in fact, I would say that was one of the biggest sort of aha moments that me and my team had, my team and I had, when we were playing with this stuff, is that you don't actually have to write any of this markdown or any of this stuff yourself. you can kind of just describe what you want to the general Copilot CLI agent, and it's going to write your custom agent for you, or at least get it started, or write your custom extension for you. And that's what I did here. So I, didn't write a line of this code. I just asked Copilot CLI, and after through some iterations through planning, we nailed down kind of what I wanted this thing to do, and it wrote it. But it is really cool and super powerful. I've seen people launch like UI experiences. I've seen people do a demo where you launch a snake game and you can play it while you're waiting for your agent to like end its turn, and it's waiting for you, and it'll pause the game. Just silly stuff, but also really really powerful stuff. And this ADO build watcher is something I use every day in my day-to-day work. Also, shout out to my colleague Hector Flores, who has a really great blog, or actually set of blogs about extensions as well. And so, if you want to see more examples, I would definitely head over there. And these particular extensions, you can find them in my Copilot Toolkit repository under extensions. And there's even a script to install them. If you want to grab some of these extensions from me, I just have the two. But again, ADO Build Watcher is one that I use every single day in my day job. Um, I think with all of that, let's see. Let's see. Is there an dash extensions command? There is. So I'll just say, with everything is pretty intuitive with the Copilot CLI. So if you want to see your extensions, you can do manage. What's really cool too is you can. It's still writing my skill. Let's just go ahead and cancel it writing my skill, so we can see my extensions. And what's really cool is it can dynamically reload extensions. So if you're writing an extension, you don't have to like restart Copilot CLI. It'll just keep dynamically reloading it, so you can test it out, which is super cool. Um, all right, I think this has gone on long enough. This was not my typical short video, a little bit longer, but hopefully this was really useful in learning about all the different ways you can customize your Copilot and Copilot CLI experiences. Happy vibe coding, I guess. I can't really say happy coding anymore. Happy vibe coding, and have a good one.